there's like this idea that there's not enough seats at the table. Like
Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of The Wine Down.
Hey,
I've got my lovely friend. You're probably used to her by now.
I
hope
you
should be
know
used
me
to
at
her.
this point.
And if you don't, you better follow her on Bittersweet Podcast, which is up here somewhere on the screen and in the description if y'all need the double links.
What's up, guys?
How y'all feeling? How you feeling actually?
I'm feeling good. It's been a long day, but I'm feeling good.
Nice.
Energized.
Nice.
Ready to be here. Ready for the conversations.
Love to have you here
As
for the
always.
conversations. Today we're gonna have a very interesting conversation. Today's conversation is about content creating. I guess the life and the struggle of being a creative.
So many things fall into like creative these days, but yeah,
A creative, and really just like our experiences with being creatives. Kind of freshie creatives actually. Winnie has been in the game for a little bit longer than me, at least consistently. Definitely.
I try.
Yeah, that's the main thing. I think that's a good actually
Starting point.
Yeah, let's talk about consistency as a creative.
Because at first, when I first heard like the term creative, I'm like, okay, what's that? And it's like, I think that's like an umbrella term people use for everything that is like in the arts.
Creators of different kind of art forms.
Yeah.
So like music, podcasting, audio, like art can be presented in different
ways.
platforms.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing this for 2 years, so it's actually been a while since I literally was thinking about it the other day, and I'm like, 2 years where though?
Wow.
But then I feel like 2020 was just like a blur, so it just felt like, it feels like crazy to think that it's been 2 years. The internet moves so fast, so it's like you really need to be like on it every single time.
You need to be on
like
it
all the time.
Basically in people's face all the time.
Literally. Just think about the way if you're on Instagram or like any sort of social media, and if you're like always seeing the same person pop up, they're kind of always like front
of your mind.
Front of your mind, which is kind of like how you want to be as like a content creator, I guess.
True.
Yeah, so, but it's not easy because one, a lot of people who start off in the creative industry or like, you know, trying to build their own platforms, it's an industry you're in and you want to create a job out of it, but it's not a job yet, right? So it's 100%. Just like, okay, I'm here, I'm trying to put out content, and you kind of have to be your own, like, I guess, boss. Like, you really need to hold yourself accountable. And you know how we can be like, at the start I'm just like, oh, true, let me drop the episode. Oh, like, true, let me just I'll just drop it tomorrow, and then like next week. Eventually it's kind of like, obviously I really care about what I'm doing, I want to keep doing it, so you gotta be consistent. And it's not easy. And it's just, aside from doing the fun stuff, which is like, you know, doing the chats that we do or the videos, like engaging in the videos and things like that, you also have to do the behind the scenes work, because at this stage of your creative career, I guess, you do have to be everything. You have to be the marketer, you have to be the admin staff, you gotta be like the visual, the editor, the producer, everything. It's like everything, and you don't realize you're doing all these little things that like people actually have jobs to do. Like, and I think that when you first start something, it's like, you're doing YouTube now, Milena, and it's like the idea of, okay, when it's just an idea, you're like, I can put out this content, I can pick up these conversations, I can bring on these people, I can do this kind of like fashion whole, like, it's fun, the whole concept of it. But then you get into it and you're like, all right, cool, I have to edit. I have to do, and you have to learn how to edit. Like, you know what I mean? You're like teaching yourself everything. So consistency is like not as simple as like having the idea. Like, there's so much that goes into like the back work of it. So it's a struggle. I feel like I don't see enough of that. Maybe? Of people talking about how hard it actually is to create content and be consistent with it. And then like outside of like the like logistics side of it, it's also like, how draining is it just being on social media 24/7? So it's like, you sometimes, you know, you just want to have like a social media cleanse, or you just want to get off like scrolling and this and that, but then you're like, oh, okay, but I have to also maintain this, and I have to make sure I stay online to be putting this stuff out. So it's like finding a middle ground between like, let me just put this content out and like also log off. Maybe like content creators that have been doing this stuff for a long time, they kind of get to a point where they are like comfortable in, or like they've built enough of a platform or have a bigger team and things like that. Well, that's the thing, they can hire people to do stuff when you start making in that money. But that's the thing, like, if you're gonna be a creative or do it seriously, if you're trying to do it seriously, it's hard to do it with this mindset of being money. Like, if you're like, hey, I'm gonna do this for money, because especially when you're starting, when you're starting, because there's gonna be a lot of things
you have to cater for, and that could be at the cost of you spending time and spending money to buy equipment and to put in time outside of like your work hours, your actual day job and things like that to do these things. Sometimes I'll be editing, you know, I'm like, okay, when can I edit? Maybe I can edit it like before work because I work night hours. So I'm like, maybe I can do it before work, but then I need to sleep in. It's all right. I need to edit this video so it's out on time. So I will wake up early and just kind of try to do it. Yeah. And then, or I will try to do it in between like my work breaks. It's really hard.
Do you feel like there's a difference with how how you value consistency now versus when you, I guess, like started your channel? Or you always like, I need to make sure I get everything, like, yeah, how do you...
I think it's still, because I'm still in that very, very early stage. Yeah. I still think I'm in that same mindset of I need to get stuff out every week. But then again, no, wait, actually it shifted a little bit as of recently, because I've started to think of like, oh, I can do this, for example, doing the wind down every other Wednesday. So that's not, because at first I was like, maybe I could release 2 videos a week, one wind down video and one normal video. And I'm like, okay, who am I kidding? Like, I can barely do this once a week thing. So I have to like be balanced and be like, maybe it's not such a big deal if I do a wind down video every other week. I think like I've kind of started to a little bit be like, okay, it's not as crazy to maintain sort of balanced consistency as I thought, but the idea of I have to be consistent is still the same. I know I have to be consistent. Does that make sense? But like the way to be consistent, I've kind of started to be a little bit more kind of practical about it.
Yeah, also even having like a structure, and I struggle. For someone who loves the idea of structure, I'm the most unstructured person on this planet. Like I'm like organization, all that. I love it. I love the idea of just like you know, having like
Excel sheets,
Excel, or like even just like lists, having lists and writing down what I need to do today, all this stuff, and I'll do it. But then it's like, true, like did I even do any of it? But then at the same time, like when I do go into those like little periods of like being very structured, I know that it's so much easier to actually put out content. It's so much easier not to be as overwhelmed by it, because sometimes it feels like I have a million things to do and I have to, and it just like, when there's no like rhythm to what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true. That
stresses me out. Yeah, it stresses me out so much. But I would say like if people are looking into doing it and you're a structured person, it will help. And if you're not, get with it.
Get with it. So that being said, like consistency is key, obviously. But especially in like a place like Melbourne where we live, okay, we have obviously the creative scene is popping, but it's still not as popping as compared to like certain countries, like maybe the UK or America, at least within the POC community. And I feel like I've noticed like a rise in the past couple of years, but still not at a certain point. So that being said, do you feel like sometimes we're made out to feel like we're almost competing with each other, but at the same breath we're also trying to support local artists? We're like, want to support a sis, want to support a bro, but we're also like, damn, but they're out here really like making it. What am I doing?
Yeah, you're like, because it's just like you compare yourself so much. I think naturally as we
humans,
compare
we
each
do,
other, right?
We do.
And when you're stepping into like a space that is kind of like unknown and hasn't been touched, there's this huge feeling of, you know, we always talk about the imposter syndrome, and you're like, oh, okay, am I even that good? Okay, this person's coming and they're popping, and like, okay, like you're just gonna be like comparing yourselves to them, right? But then, like for instance, the work that I do, it's very centered around like the Black experience, and I guess the Black experience in Australia, which obviously it's coming from me and Rahel, like my co-host, and it's like we're two Black women talking about our experiences, sharing like things on relationships and all that kind of stuff that is very relatable, but then also when someone else creates it too, I'm like, oh, okay, cool, like they're doing the same conversations that we're doing, and they're like, and sometimes you're just kind of like, okay, I like the way they did that, and you can't help but compare and feel a little bit like, okay, is there something I'm not doing right? Is there something that, but at the same time, it's like I also want to collab. I also want to jump on and get you guys and do work together, because like it's literally like we are wanting more.
With yourself,
because even when I was living in the UK, I was like, I want to immerse myself in this culture. Like, I love the idea that there's so much Black content creators. I love that you guys are out here, like, collaborating, getting together, and like you're able to like hold this space. So I'm like, this is what I want to see in Australia, right? So then you see it and you're like, this is amazing, and then you're like also, oh, okay, like I want to I want to be up there with you. Like I don't know, it's like this.
It's hard. Do you think that because already the arts, especially within POC community, is very niche still? When you think about like our parents, they don't advocate for creative, they don't respect creative arts a lot of the time, and I'm generalizing here, but there's already less of us. There's already less of us in it. So, and it's rare enough that we even get to be in it, and so it's like when we see another person of color doing it, we're just like, oh yay, but also like, damn, like I thought I really had like
something special going.
Something special going.
Yeah, I feel like it feels like that's the thing though, Milena. Like I think there's like this idea that there's not enough seats at the table. Like, I think our concept of what is available and like how much space we can hold is very limited. Very limited. And I don't think we realize that like I think sometimes even like more people doing it just kind of opens the path for more of us actually jumping on and doing the same thing as well. But it's a really good thing for there to be like different kinds of creators doing the same thing. Because when you even think about the Black diaspora or like even POC or people in general, right? There's never gonna be like one person that is gonna represent everybody. So it's like, do you get what I mean? So it's like you could be up here as this and then someone else could be doing the same thing you're doing, and then another like 5 girls could be doing the same thing you're doing, but your audience is so different to her audience. Maybe it overlaps, but it's very different, and that's why I feel like you should always stay like real and authentic to yourself, because if you're looking at someone and you compare too much and you try to do what they're doing, one, people can see that, but then two, it's like you're gonna lose a lot of like genuine audience, like followers.
And you're also gonna, I feel like you're gonna start hating it.
You're gonna be like, I'm not doing this because I like it anymore. I'm not doing it because you
have to stay true to yourself. And speaking of authenticity, we were talking about how important, let's talk about how important that is in the time of social media where everything is a filter. And everything is put on. Everyone's life is perceived to be this kind of set of perfection. And even just like, you just don't know what's real and what's not anymore. You know, something I've been feeling, I feel like ever since I've started really trying to be consistent with my content, in this battle with myself where I'm trying to always stand out and like put out original things. So like at the same time you're trying to be true to yourself. And it's hard because sometimes some of the things you do, like you're gonna see other people doing it too, like you said.
But I feel like even that is like more in your head, like a lot of the times. And like we even said the whole imposter syndrome, or just even overthinking in general, it's in your head because nobody is thinking that. Nobody is thinking like, oh my god, I did this topic and I just did it. Or,
and what you said like about the audience is so true, because think about like YouTubers that we follow. Check out Annie Drea, y'all. But like even Annie Drea and Nella Rose, like I remember we were saying, we compared about who we watch, and we do have people that we watch, but it's also certain people that you're like, I gravitate more towards this person, not because they have more followers or something,
but because I like this, like there's something I can relate to. And it's also like I go to this person if I'm trying to get like, if I'm trying to just laugh and this and that, like I'm gonna go for this. If I'm gonna go for, like, you get something different from everyone, so it's like,
so true.
What's the point of doing what someone else is doing if someone else is coming to you for something completely different?
Just do whatever you want to do. Even with YouTube, it's a new creative outlet for me, and I'm still navigating through it, and I still do have people ask me like, what's your niche, like what's your thing? And I was like, honestly, I don't have a niche yet. Obviously there is something that I'm gonna get into, that I'm gonna be like, okay, this is obviously what I really enjoy, like these chats, for example. I feel like this is something that I do really enjoy, and I want it to be an aspect of my channel, but I don't want it to be the entire aspect. Do you ever feel that with even your podcast, when you first started to now, you feel limited sometimes like this limit, or do you feel like you now unintentionally, because you've been doing a certain thing for a while, do you feel like
I've capped on like what I've done? You know what, it's so crazy because we did like a collab with the guys from Talking Trophies. If you guys don't know about Talking Trophies, check them out. They're like YouTubers in Melbourne, and they were like, oh, tell the audience about Bittersweet. And I'm like, what is like Bittersweet? Because it's just like, it's so hard for me to like have like an elevator pitch of what we are. Like, I'm speaking on things that are centered around like Black culture and in Australia, or like my experience as a woman, and we touch on relationships, we touch on culture, we touch on, it's so hard to like have a one-liner of like, okay, what is your niche? At the same time, it's like able to have like these free-flowing conversations about whatever we feel like relates to ourselves and relates to people that are going to be like our audience basically.
Or do you feel like you've limited yourself because you started off as something and then somehow you kind of ventured off into a certain niche and now you're like, oh, should I stick to this niche now? Do you feel like you can't explore other things even if you wanted to?
Sometimes I feel like that, but then I go into the headspace where I'm like, this is literally a platform we created.
Yeah,
and we should be able to freely express what we want it to be about. But yeah, for sure, like when I first started it, I was inspired by like, again, like UK content creators, and they were like stepping into this whole thing where people, it was like a rise of black creators. So I was like, I want to do this. And I feel like I have conversations that are really important to be kind of like shared with my friends and people, and I'm like, this is really like a space that we can hold. So I'm like, like I want it to be centered around the black experience. I want it to be, and then at one point I felt like, am I just like limiting it to just that? Does it always have to relate to like only what like people of color or black people relate to? But you're leaving people out, but then you're also leaving out the opportunity to like explore different conversations or talk to different people.
So in saying that, Winnie, like, so are you saying the experiences that your experiences are open to anybody who are willing to relate to it?
I feel like that's definitely, that's 100%. Like, you don't really need to cap your content. It should just be like whoever can receive it receives it, if that makes sense. And
obviously all you can do is talk about your experience as it pertains to you, but opening up the doors to have conversations with other people that don't have the exact same experience as you, and then just allowing that kind of free flow of conversation.
And we're talking about being consistent, right? And we were talking about how, you know, like obviously there's so much that goes behind the scenes and it can be hard, but then also like you need to take care of your mental health. Well, I feel like sometimes I can go into a mode of autopilot where I'm just kind of like, okay, like I know I need to push this out, I know I need to do, but then it's like I'm not even checking in with myself, and then it gets to a point where I'm like, you either burn out or you're just kind of like, you just lose focus. Like you're just kind of like, okay, what am I even doing at this point? I'm just so used to doing this. It's become such a routine. It's become such a habit that I'm just like taking away from the enjoyment of it, taking away from the purpose of it, and just like pushing things out. And then it gets to a point where you kind of feel like you're not being real to yourself in what you're doing, and it's just like, it's such a jaded feeling. Like I can't stress enough how important it is to kind of check in with yourself and just kind of be like self-aware of where you're at mentally when you're doing
and why you're doing
and
what
why
you're
you're
doing.
doing it. I remember when we first started, we wrote down like, what is the purpose of like this whole thing? Like as much as like it sounds corny or like just too technical, it just kind of reminds us like, I've been doing this for like, you know, because this is stuff that you care about or like you want to be able to like, you found a skill in what you're doing, you enjoy it, you think people will like relate to it, this is why I'm doing it. And sometimes it can get clouded with all the other things, like the technical stuff that gets kind of caught up with it. So like always remind yourself of why you're doing what you're doing.
100%. Having friends that are creatives, I love it because I obviously feel so inspired by it. It actually motivates me, but it also makes me feel sometimes I'm trying to catch up with them, even with you and stuff. Like when I see what you're doing, and I've told you this on multiple times, like even before I started YouTube, you were already on this game, and I was just like, damn, I really need to get on it. I really need to, you know, dang, I really need to get on point with my content creating. All these ideas that I've had, I actually need to put it out. And it motivated me, but it also kind of intimidated me because it made me feel like, damn, like am I already too far behind? Or even me starting out, I know it's completely different levels because I'm starting out now for something that you've been hustling on for like consistently for 2 years. You've put in the blood, sweat, and tears. I still can't help but compare and be like, is there even a point in me doing this? Because I'm not going to get as good as you, or I'm not going to get as good as this person. And it's a privilege what we're doing right now, even for us to be worrying about this, like to even have the opportunity to create these things, to make these things happen, to have a creative side to ourselves. We really need to be grateful for our privilege to be able to create these things in the ways that we do and enjoy it. Like you said, enjoy it.
But sorry, I'm trying to get comfortable.
No, please do. It's your house. Anyway. All in all, what's your takeaway from today? The takeaway, I just want to say before I forget, the takeaway that I got from what you said earlier about like protecting your mental health when you are being creative. Humanity is known to always compare itself in general. Everyone compares to each other no matter what. But yeah, just remembering to stay true to yourself because you're always going to bring something to the table that's different to someone else more than you realize.
Yeah.
And also, I love what you said about there's lots of seats on the table.
We can be a family up here.
Family. Hey. What's your takeaway?
My takeaway is it's about like putting out content, but it's about being real to yourself. One thing I want to say is put your content out there, be brave, have fun with it.
Have fun with it.
So many people support so many people support when you, especially when you're just getting in. It's like everyone's always open. That's what I love about Australian content creators. I feel like everyone's like, yeah, like kumbaya vibe, you know what I mean? Like let's do this together.
True.
Don't take what you do too seriously to a point where it affects what you're putting out. You know what I mean?
That's
you don't
so
want to be like coasting. You don't want to be on autopilot. You actually want to love what you do.
Yeah.
And
because people are gonna read that. They're gonna, like you said, people are gonna see that.
Yeah.
Even if you don't think you're like being perceived a certain way, people are gonna see that and they're gonna read through it, and it's gonna obviously affect the thing that you're wishing it doesn't affect.
I feel like the main thing is like the way it affects you, and the way like you know, if you get to a point where you're just kind of like, I don't even know what I'm doing, why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
The day's dead.
The day's dead. But as always, thank you all for watching. Winnie, thank you so much for coming on yet again.
Of course.
Love to have you on as always, Winnie. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was a little bit of an important conversation to be had. Everyone, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Let's have a comment. Comment down below what you thought. If you're a creative yourself, tell me about what you've been going through. What are the emotions that you go through in your daily content creating? Yeah, I just feel like it's an important conversation to have for current creatives and aspiring creatives, because if I had known this a little bit beforehand, it just would have given me a bit more like peace. I am Milena B, sending you love and light. Until my next video, we out.
She called me Big Purr.